These are the latter days, and a major city yet to be determined in Russia.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, watching Hogan's Heroes yesterday, came across an episode in season 3 where Russia took back Kiev from the Germans. And, of course, I'm going, okay, interesting. You see, kids, back in World War II, Nazi Germany was fascist, and they took over communist Russia that included Kiev. It used to be Russian territory. Now it's Ukraine. And in 1941 was when Nazi Germany came in and took possession of Kiev. And it's spelled two different ways, K-Y-I-V or K-I-E-V. Either way, I guess, is Google spelling correct. It's interesting how different people use it for either spelling. Nonetheless, same place. But in Hogan's Heroes is where I brought it to my attention that Russia broke the German line and took back Kiev. That was in 1943. YouTube has videos on this. History documents. And so as kids we are taught in history class about World War II and how America won the war and talk about V-Day, D-Day and the battle with Japan as well. Well, in Russia, what do you think their kids are taught in their history classes? Yeah, how Russia won the war and took back Kiev. And so Russia has a long-standing connection with Kiev and Ukraine. And so people trying to tell you that distract you away from the importance of Ukraine to Russia or to Putin, they don't fully see the big picture. You know, all of this, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, were all Russian territory until the collapse of the Russian Empire, which was communist. Notice the dichotomy there. And after World War II, you had Senator McCarthy put up a big scare against communism. If you remember, as I just told you, communists were our allies in defeating the fascist Nazi Germans and restoring order. The Nuremberg trials and the search for the stolen treasure and the fleeing the country to Argentina and other places in South America. But McCarthy, who was Republican, wasn't he? I don't think, well, he could have been Democrat. Let's do a little fact check here. Yeah, Republican. And so it wasn't Nixon. He just changed the symbol of the GOP, the good old boys, to turn the star upside down. If by chance you meet a star, do not let it stay. Quickly invert it upside down and make it a symbol of Lucifer instead. That was Nixon's first campaign when that change was made. But McCarthy had the spirit of the law to turn the Republican Party from their Democrat platform into a Republican fascist platform, which used to be the Democrat Party until the end of the war. And so here in America, Democrats were supporters of Nazi Germany and all things fascist, as Mussolini likewise was fascist during World War II. And the Republican Party used to be your liberal communists. And so you have McCarthy in 57 starting the Red Scare. Communists are invading the world, and they've infiltrated our American government and in our nation. And so Hollywood was targeted, and everybody who was affiliated with communism, was blacklisted. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints during this time period came out and emphatically said, no, we're fascist. We supported Hitler and Nazi Germany. We're not communists. No, bad, evil. No, law of consecration, not communist principle whatsoever. We're fascist. And Moroni and the swastika. An essential book for everybody doing research on the church. Let's give you the name of the author. He has YouTube videos as well, going over it, giving lectures on the content of his books. Do you like this book? David Conley Nelson. Mormons in Nazi Germany. Barnes & Noble still exists? Huh. But you can get it on Amazon. Apparently I last purchased it on August 5th, 2018. He came out with it February 26th, 2015, or at least this hardcover version. And it's not Prime? Well, bummer. And so yeah, the church did a whole bunch of stuff. Klingon Skousen, Mr. Great Secret Combination busted guy. In case you missed that video, it was my return to YouTube. National Headline News, the secret membership list of the secret combination in America seeking to overthrow America, and there was Klingon Skousen as a emeritus, because he's dead now, but his son, I can't remember which one of the sons, Royal Skousen, is in charge of the Joseph Smith Papers cover-up, and another son is now taking the place of Klingon Skousen. And so, okay, getting things set up here for you. And so, with that scare, there was a switch in platforms with the dichotomous party dominance in America. And likewise, with the overthrow of fascism, communism then swept over Europe as they embraced their communist allies. And then America, with this switching themselves in a reverse fashion, were anti-communist. And so you have John F. Kennedy, who's now a part of the new Democrat platform party, who comes out and doesn't want to go to war against Cuba as they get Russian nukes parked in their driveway, as a Bay of Pigs invasion and all that stuff, and the assassination of John F. Kennedy, who gave a speech to the press warning them of the necessity of their jobs to expose and help him uncover the secret combination. He actually said secret combination within the government. And that video is still available on YouTube. And so what you are seeing now is Russia under Putin is now fascist. China under Xi is also fascist. He declared himself an emperor back in 2017. Remember Trump? He's talking about it and says, "Oh, I want to be emperor." And so communism has done the flip that America did after the war. And what you had in Europe is a situation after our 2016 election. Steve Bannon, then mission accomplished here, went over to Europe to overthrow governments there. Mission accomplished. Brexit, that was him. And Belarus also was him, putting in these fascist dictators in their elections. And some of them couldn't survive, and the fascist dictator was overthrown. But now you have Belarus supporting Putin and allowing troops in Belarus. And so Bloomberg came out with a map of the locations of Russia's troops versus American troops, even some NATO troops. In Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, there are 4,000 NATO troops led by UK, Canada, and Germany. In Poland, we had, because I think Poland is where Biden put additional troops yesterday or the day before. And I don't know if this has that addition, but 6,200 troops on Bloomberg's map. And then 34,300 U.S. troops in Germany, 1,900 U.S. troops in Romania, 2,500 U.S. troops in Bulgaria, which seems strange because they'd have to travel in to the one peninsula of Ukraine or do a sea battle. That could also be a thing, a tactic that they might employ in the Black Sea. But you have over 100,000 Russian troops near the Russian border, and they have little red dots of their locations. As you see, Crimea is encircled, and then you've got, I guess it's still Russia, isn't it? But you see how they're surrounding Ukraine and going into Belarus. As they are also at the border of Lithuania and Poland. And so Newsweek, as I saw this morning, trying to catch up as if it were news, saying that Russian bombers are flying over Belarus. Well, yeah, because he has troops there. That's not shocking. So right now, Putin is just doing a show of force. And he'll wait it out. He doesn't have to do it this year. He can do it whenever he feels like it. That's Putin. He purposely loves to delay. But there is some interesting things involving Christianity that make this all suspicious. Because Ukraine and that part of Russia is what Christians have interpreted from the book of Ezekiel as the land of Magog. The land of Magog, that's the error that I made, as I put it in a video not too long ago, talking about how I make mistakes versus the prophets of the church outright lying and deceiving. But the original concept of Magog, which reveals Ezekiel and its dating, is of Alexander the Great. I think I called it a different guy. Alexander, or Herod the Great, I think is what I put in place of Alexander. That was the mistake I made. Alexander the Great is told in mythological story form. He's a real person. He did exist. He started the Greek Empire. He did the battles to claim the land for Greece. But because of his notoriety and superiority, myths were made about him. And Magog was one of those myths. And that he had gone to the borders of Magog and built a gate to keep Magog out. And if you understand how myths are done, it's apocalyptic in nature. And so he's the last days Messiah figure who Battle of Magog, the end of the world destruction. And so right there in Ukraine, where Kiev is involved, which used to be Russian territory, I do another little fact check. I'm pretty sure it was after it was in Ukraine, but yeah, so the church spells it K-Y-I-V. It's closed right now. That's not what I wanted to see, guys. So I guess I got to click on the Wikipedia version. I did those videos for you when they took out the missionaries. It was the 134th operating temple, located in Kiev in Ukraine. It is the 11th temple in Europe. the first located within the territory of the former Soviet Union. So 29 August 2010. So it was in Ukraine at that time. Alright? So we can fact check. This is what you do if you're doing research. You got to make sure your dates and your people and places are all accurate. And I instructed you to have it out on paper because I don't memorize. I learned that as a kid. No, I'm not going to conform and comply. Alrighty. Yeah, Ukraine gained its independence in 1991 following the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And so, yeah, the church comes in 29 August 2010 under Thomas S. Monson, being one of the little temples that were started by Gordon B. Hinckley. And so what you have now is former communism banding together with former communism that are both now fascist. Both Russia and China have banded together and they're both now fascist governments. And Ukraine has been taken over by communists. Europe and communist NATO. You see the flip that's been done here? And so in Putin's mind, it's not about the fall of the Soviet Union. It's also a concept of Ukraine has been conquered and needs to be taken back. Just like in World War II. But they were communists back then. But he doesn't acknowledge the dichotomy. He just sees it as Europe has again taken Ukraine and Kiev. And so this is what he's doing now. He's all in to get it back. But when? He'll take his time. If any of these communist countries want us, draw first blood to give him excuse, yeah, he'll do it. And he'll immediately shut down all gas sales to Europe, and they'll go through a gas crisis. And the stock markets will collapse as companies will sell their stocks in non-war-friendly stocks so that they can then reinvest into war-friendly stocks, just like they did at the beginning of 2020. They all sold their non-pandemic-friendly stocks to then repurchase friendly pandemic stocks. That's what they do. They just play games. They're filthy rich, and they continue to profit in peace or in wartime. And so we know this is coming. We already see it as a battle strategy. And Putin already knows this. He's like a chess player. He thinks many moves in advance and thinks of all the different scenarios of the enemy and what they would do and what his response would then be, so that he plans it. He knows exactly, when they do this, I'm going to do that. If they do this instead, I'm going to do this instead. He's KGB trained. Don't sell him short. And so it is very interesting that Putin didn't do this during Trump's administration. He waited until Biden's. Because in 2014, when he conquered Crimea, that was under Obama. And Obama, nothing. No war. He took it over and boom, it's his. He now occupies it. And so now, under Biden, the Democrat president, he's now threatening Ukraine to take that back. And so he's not going to wait for Trump. Maybe. Because Trump's taking office next year. I've gone over the scenario. I know, the news is saying, oh, Trump is already starting to advertise for 2024, and oh, yeah, famous celebrities like Bill Maher talks about the threat of Trump in 2024, and we got to stop him now, and Democrats are spineless. Guys, the Republican Party, no longer Republican, they're now MAGA. You need to understand that. The Republican Party does not exist anymore. There are people that are part of the former party called Republican. They're MAGA. And if they're not MAGA, they're denounced. The RNC just denounced Darth Vader's daughter, as the joke is. Princess Leia? And so it doesn't quite work with the analogy, but nonetheless, we already know what they're plotting. They're going to make sure MAGA sweeps Congress in the midterms. They've got states already set up to overturn the election in the key states, and where they have planned, where Democrat candidates are weakest, to overthrow them. We already know this. The Supreme Court helped them. And then, once they take office, January 3rd, isn't it? And then January 6th is when they're formally declared in Congress? Or is that the 6th when it's official? Again, we can fact check to make sure we get our dates correct. Yeah, noon on January 3rd. And then the 6th is the showboating declaration. And once they sweep Congress, they've told us they're putting Trump as Speaker of the House. Now, what's so important about the Speaker of the House? They're third in line for the presidency, after the President and the Vice President. Well, the President and Vice President are those deep state Dems. And what have they been telling us they're going to do after they sweep Congress? They've already drawn up the impeachment proceedings. Who oversees the impeachment proceedings? Well, Mr. Twice Impeached himself, who wants revenge. And so we know exactly what's going to happen. So why then are the news still focusing on 2024? Because Trump is saying it? Seriously? And so with the Senate dominated by MAGA, guess what's going to happen for the first time in American history? The conviction of an impeachment of a president and a vice president of the United States of America, which will immediately take effect, and then guess who takes over the government? The Speaker of the House. 2023. They're not going to waste time. It's going to go quick, like all of Mitch McConnell's MAGA judges. Record number of judges put in by Mitch McConnell throughout this whole nation. They know exactly what they're doing. And for the deep state Dems to be clueless is all part of the trap that's being set for us. Because if you hadn't noticed, deep state Dems are talking about fascist principles. We've got MAGA, which is alt-right fascism, and now you have deep state Dems that are pushing fascism on us. Case in point, separate but equal. That's fascist. That is anti-American and anti-Constitution. That's segregationalist. You know, all the different discriminatory groups. Oh, we accept all of you, and all of you get a separate category as equals. And so you can see it with LGBTQIAPO and then pluses. Separate but equal. That's segregationalist. And then Bill Maher had a government Democrat on his show last night. That's available on YouTube. Talking about how the economy is going great because we're getting jobs to the people. He's not on the front lines. The number of homeless has greatly increased. So increasing jobs means nothing to the homeless who have no home and thus no job. So what is he talking about? The economy is doing great because more jobs have been added. Well, he's talking about the fascist principle of slavery as a deep state Dem. If you're unfamiliar with slavery, it used to be plantation owners would hire slave labor, buy slave labor, to work on the plantations so that the plantation owner got filthy rich off the backs of humans. And so, oh, well, we're no longer racist as a nation because we did away with plantation and plantation owners. No, we just converted it into corporations. Corporations are now the plantation slave owners, and they hire the slaves to work for them to make them the money, where the slaves are working minimum wage jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, just like slaves. The capitalism that we're supposed to have, or was idealized, it was not talked about in the Constitution. A type of economy was not mentioned. It just said Congress is in charge of the weights and measures for an economy. But have you ever thought about everybody being their own boss? That's pure capitalism, where you don't hire people if you can get an automated robotic system to mass produce your particular product. You are your own boss, and you are selling your product. And depending on the need for your product determines how much money you then get. But you are your own boss. You are a slave to no one. It used to be called working for the man in regards to working for a corporation or somebody else. Now, there are situations where you need to be educated in a particular field, and so you can't just start your own business in that field not knowing about the business. So there's education that you have to have, there's apprenticeships that are needed, and volunteer work inside so that you can learn how it functions and works. And so in those situations, yes, you have to work for somebody to know how the business is run. But if we were to treat everybody equally, it would be for the purpose so that you then could go and do your own business. But to have a business purposely keep you down so that you can't get enough money to start your own business, so that you're not competition for them. Yeah. So Democrats are slave proponents. They're pushing for slavery. I had mentioned in another video I did a day or two ago about abortion. It would have been Friday because Samantha Bee had it on her channel discussing it. And it's talking about how the religious MAGA are so vehement to claim that abortion is murder, and it's therefore anti-Christian. And so they're forcing other people to be Christian and follow Christian standards and values. It is all a religious scam. But you have Democrat liberals who are pro-life for the woman. But again, that's not the issue. That's the distraction in a false dichotomy system. The issue is, how did the woman get pregnant? But in regards to abortion, whether God approves or not, I pulled out a scripture talking about how God is for abortion. He's pro-abortion, pro-choice. As God's choice, God's will, is to kill babies. And if you don't know the one I'm referring to, King David with Bathsheba. Their first baby died. God smote it down because Nathan, the prophet, caught him and condemned King David. And so, after the murder of Uriah, King David takes in Bathsheba. They have the second son, Solomon, who then becomes the birthright blessing son through whom the latter-day Messiah is supposed to come through. And so this false dichotomy is long before Mormon Stanley Smith Stevens developed it into a written format of the dichotomous and non-dichotomous categorization system. In Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini, 15th of August, 1871, he talks about the dichotomy that needs to be made between communism and fascism. And likewise, the dichotomy between those who are trying to restore Zion and those who are Islam, right? Oh, that's World War III. Fascism against the Zionists. But they purposely set this whole thing up. It's not a coincidence that you have this false dichotomy all around the world, and people flipping platforms all of a sudden. This is a direct threat to the world, and it was known, it was planned and plotted and organized. And with World War III, they are going to overthrow Christianity. And they're going to do it by showing them that Christianity is false. That they've been led astray by Constantine, the Roman emperor who created Jesus. Now, Jesus is already a Hebrew name. It's Yah, the Hebrew God of salvation. But it's the Hebrew God, Yah. And so when you write books and you use Yah, you're talking about a mythology of the god Yah. Just like the Greeks had Zeus, which is the phonetic or pictorially the same, and thus phonetically, of Paleo-Hebrews Yah. Zeus, Yah. Same thing. It's actually Zah. Semitic Hebrew changed the phonemes to Yah, a Yod. But it was Zeta in Paleo-Hebrew. So Zeus and Yah are the same god. So in Greeks, they have all these myths, stories about Zeus, you know, and they're all apocalyptic literature too. Just like the Bible stories. They're all about Yah, but it's about apocalyptic literature. Wartime, end of days. And so Alexander the Great with Magog from Ezekiel. That's why that was developed. And so the Gospels, they weren't called the Gospels originally. They were apocalyptic literature, each having their own story taken from Egyptian stories combined into a complete narrative. Just like the Old Testament and the Torah. Because the stories from creation to Noah are from different Egyptian stories, combined together into a narrative for us. And so you've got to isolate the stories and then correctly translate the Bible from the Egyptian documents that they came from in order to restore it. And I've done that already. But for the apocalyptic literature, under Christian understanding, they believe Jesus is real because Constantine created him, and they believed him because they were forced to. Believe or die. And so the concept emerged that Jesus is coming back from the dead, coming from outer space on a flying horse. Oh, wait a minute, we already have those stories in both Greek, in Greek, with Hercules and then Perseus. The flying horses. Hello? Clash of the Titans. And then the reboot had Wrath of the Titans, along with the Clash of the Titans reboot. And all of that is apocalyptic literature. It's just written by the Greeks. And there it is in the book of Revelation, chapter 19, on a white horse from outer space. And so Rapture Palooza, they murder him. Oops! You just killed Jesus! You killed my son! And then they kill him. But the whole concept of you killed my son, he's a separate physical personage. That's not Christian doctrine either. But this is how absurd Christian thinking is. By turning apocalyptic literature into history documents and prophecy about a history that is supposed to take place rather than understanding the apocalyptic literature narrative. And they are using that against Christians in this final war. They're purposely getting Christians to get more and more anti-science, anti-truth. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is coming. You have to commit the crimes to bring about Jesus. You have to put in these tyrants who are going to torture even you because Jesus is coming because of it. This is how absurd they are brainwashing Christians. And Christians are falling for it. Christians are destroying America. They raided the Capitol. They're seeking to overthrow the government. Because they think it's going to bring Jesus. And they purposely plotted and planned this to overthrow Christianity and their ridiculous, absurd belief thinking. And guess who else is involved with this, Mormons? I've traced it to the ones responsible with the church. And the church knows I know and have destroyed my life, trying desperately to silence me. So I don't understand why I've still got the internet. But when Nelson came out and said a major city yet to be determined in Russia, I knew exactly what they were referring to. And sure enough, here we are. The church paid Russia for this event in Kiev. They are seeking to overthrow America and seeking to overthrow world governments to establish what Albert Pike said: receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. Now, the doctrines of an organization are symbolized on their building's keystone. That's what a whole keystone represents. The symbol on the keystone is representative of the doctrines that are taught within. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has what as their keystone at Temple Square's Salt Lake City Temple? That the church put up a wall and purposely take pictures and videos of everywhere but that location so that we don't see it. They're covering it up. Why? Brigham Young was very bold in saying, this is what I want there on the keystone. That was him who ordered it. Just like it was on the Nauvoo Temple, ordered by Brigham Young. We're changing the deco now that Joseph is dead. And it's on the Logan Temple. And I did that one for you where I finally found a picture that showed it. Because there's the church's photo of the Logan Temple that, hey, it's blurred out. Why is it blurred out? Why is the church blurring out the keystone? Not on the doors this time, it was on one of the windows of the temple. They restored the Nauvoo temple, had no problem showing the inverted pentagram there. Oops, yeah, that's what's the keystone, isn't it? And Mormons are in denial. You're getting played like chumps by the church prophets just like Christians are getting played. You're being used as their puppet to do their dirty work to destroy you. That's their plan. To disillusion you with Mormonism, to disillusion you with Christianity. Because no Jesus. They've got the Battle of Magog all set, ready to go. The whole world will be there. Because China is going to join in. That's the pact they just made with Putin. We've got all of Europe, the United States. And can you imagine the nightmare if the war continues into next year after Biden and Harris are convicted of their impeachment and a certain person takes over as president? All of our troops now are under his control. Do you now see the danger that is coming? And so Putin, yeah, he's taking his time. He knows what's coming. He's waiting. So if he starts it this year, okay, we'll just make sure it drags out into next year. Because then he'll have America's forces fighting for him too. You guys are not scared enough of what is going on and what is about to happen. This is World War III. We've been in it. We've been cooed. And what they plan is extremely dangerous. China, have you not been paying attention? They are an authoritative state. Everybody is monitored and controlled. If you play a YouTube video, if they allowed YouTube, for longer than the required time of your social status, your social status gets dropped so that you get even less time to watch whatever social media, if they allow it, or if they have their own. If you purchase more than you are allowed to purchase, your social standing drops, and you are not allowed to buy even more, the lesser stuff. You have to purchase less stuff now. This is the danger of China. It's not just the Muslim community that they're torturing. It's their whole people. Everybody are slaves in their system. That's the kind of government fascism is. And so Hong Kong, yeah, they've been conquered now. It's now part of the Chinese authoritative state. They are now all monitored. The news is gone. It's now China news. And now they're moving on to Taiwan, making a pact with Putin to join in the Battle of Magog. And so what a former president threatened but couldn't do because there were people telling him no, well, imagine next year when he purposely has people that won't say no, that will do as he orders. Slaves will be used to build the wall. Our whole lives will be monitored. There will be only one news. Everything will descend into chaos as the military will be put on our streets. And there will have to be an underground movement as a result. But in Mormonism, there is no underground movement. I'm it. And so unlike Hogan's Heroes, they've already set up the conditions to prevent the insurrection of the coup, the resistance movement. That's why I have the little, let's see, yeah, right in this location. That's sign language for R. That's what it refers to, and I did the video once where I showed you the 3 R's. And it's the Paleo-Hebrew R, which comes from the Egyptian symbol of the flag. So the 3 flags in Egyptian represent gods. But yeah, everything is monitored in China, and that will come to America, so that we are all controlled. We won't be able to have free speech, because if we speak against the authoritarians, if we speak about a revolution, protesting, yeah, this time Black Lives Matter will get murdered in the streets for protesting. And so if our government agencies, intelligence agencies are going to save America, they need to do it immediately. They cannot keep hesitating, because their hesitation is aiding and abetting the enemy. And remember, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints wants this. They're already setting things up for them to take back the kingdom of Deseret, which was part of the deal they've made. So the BYU professors, yeah, you gotta have a full tithing to work at BYU. They say temple recommend. The news is kind of deceiving us. You have to pay the protection racket to work at BYU now. They've already done it when I was working there, that you had to have your temple recommend, thus be full tithe payers. And the reason why is they knew that I had gotten divorced. And they were hoping to catch me in not paying child support, because my ex got Gordon B. Hinckley to change the temple recommend interviews to include, are you current in all your child support or alimony, palimony payments? That was my ex who caused that one. So blame her, not me. But yeah, the church has the doctrines of Lucifer, and we have the Book of Mormon. We have selections from the Book of Moses, chapter 4, verses 1 through 4. We have the Doctrine and Covenants. We know the doctrine of Lucifer in great detail. We are warned about it. We were warned so much that we can know precisely the organization and their doctrines and their signs and their secret symbols to a T. And this is how blinded Mormons are. They all claim that they love the Book of Mormon and it's the greatest book in the universe, and they don't make the connection that their church is the great and abominable church talked about in it. Or they do, and they're promoting the Book of Mormon as Lucifer's book, dismissing all of the true prophets in the Book of Mormon, and promoting instead Korihor and the Antichrist and the secret combination and the Isaiah part about Lucifer. How art thou fallen from heaven? Well, in the latter days you're going to ascend to the throne. We're going to overthrow Christianity and Judaism and the Mormon Church of Joseph Smith. That's the whole plot and plan. And so, what are they doing with the scriptures of the latter days then? Well, you've already seen Magog, but there's others that you have not been aware of, or you don't believe me when I've been telling you through the videos. They've been using the star dates given in the Bible. In Revelation chapter 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She being with child cried, travailing in birth, pain to be delivered. Do you know who knows about this? Who knew about it in advance? China. China knew about this as a star date. They knew it was the 23rd of September 2017. China knew. China, who doesn't allow religion. Christianity is an abomination to them. But they knew it from the Christian Bible. They knew this was a star date. How do I know they knew? They sold t-shirts for the event with the date and the reference in Revelation. I bought one because after I found the date, I then checked again because I had bought one from China for Independence, Missouri's 21st of August 2017, first day of darkness of the latter days in the first year. That's my number one video of all existence of those who are signed in. Because remember, YouTube has changed over the years and now no longer allow me to know the total number of views by purposely not counting those who are not signed in. That's how much they're trying to silence me. They're trying to get me frustrated that nobody's watching my videos. And apparently I have more people watching than I realize. But nonetheless, China knew. They put up the star chart on the t-shirt with the date and the reference in Revelation. China. As well as Independence, Missouri, for the first day of darkness, the total solar eclipse that went all over America. See, they know, China knows, this is not Jerusalem. They know it's not Magog. It's America. They know. But they're pulling the stunt in Magog, according to Christian interpretation, for the sole purpose, as I showed you, to overthrow and destroy Christianity, and thus Mormonism along with it, because the prophets, since Heber J. Grant in 1923, oh yeah, we're Christian, evangelical fundamentalist Christian, and it's being perpetuated more so by Nelson. It has to be Jesus. In the name of our church and in our conversation, he is our Jesus, our Christ. There is no other. Yeah, well, it's Lucifer. It's the deception. They're purposely tanking the church. That's why so many Mormons have just said, I'm out. 15 million, my brother has lost count of. Can't find them. So the church says, yeah, we're not going to give you membership numbers anymore. This virus is screwing up the numbers. There's a mass exodus from the church. They're purging the church membership on purpose. They've poisoned Utah, the air, land, and water, purposely to murder us. They purposely keep church and temples opened to murder you. They had Senator Lee keep trying to get a bill to have Russians come to America, specifically Utah, because Nelson said that Zion is coming, or is here in Utah at Temple Square. Thus, that's the Zion Temple, is the Salt Lake Temple with the inverted pentagram of Lucifer, and the 12 tribes, which, if you saw their youth battalion fireside in 2018, the summer, Sister Nelson talked about how they were in Russia and how Russia has all the tribes. Yay, they're the lost tribes of the north, and they're coming in the latter days to Utah to dwell, as Utah Mormons are purged from the church to be replaced. Russia will not replace us. Yes, they will. That's what they're doing. I've warned you. That's why the cost of housing is so high that nobody can afford housing here. They're purposely kicking us out, keeping us from living here. They're making it as difficult as possible. That's why they cause homelessness and then ban and punish the homeless for being homeless. They cast out the homeless and created a law to make it illegal to be homeless. That's what they're doing to me. That's how they've destroyed me. So again, I don't understand why I still have the internet. Something's going on, and I'm not being privy to it. We are at war, and the church is in on it. And so this is why they don't reveal the signs of the latter days to you. This is why they don't correctly translate the scriptures for you. This is why they don't prophesy of the latter days for you. This is why they lie about Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon and church history and the Doctrine and Covenants and all things historical. This is why they lie to you. They lied to you about the organization of Brigham Young that was shut down by the United States. It ceased to exist, but they won't tell you this. They keep telling you, nope, a continual succession from Brigham Young, from Joseph Smith. We have not been destroyed by the United States, but they are our enemy, and we will overthrow them in revenge for what they did to us. This is why Oaks is giving talks about polygamy, that it's religious freedom, not against the law. This is why Nelson changed the temple text in the law of chastity to allow for polygamy. They're bringing back Brigham Young's kingdom and all of its crimes, as Hinckley likewise brought back the Perpetual Immigration Fund, this time called the Perpetual Education Fund. It's still a criminal operation that was shut down by the United States. But the United States isn't getting them this time. Are you scared yet? I hope you aren't dismissing it because you're too scared. That's what happens when you're overwhelmed in shock of horror. You tend to shut things off. Say, nope, I can't handle any more of this. I'm out. I can't listen anymore. But it's coming. And there is no resistance against it, because I'm the only one who's exposed it. Other than the enemy, who's blatantly been telling us, yeah, we're criminals, this is what we're planning to do to you. There's nothing you can do to stop us. Even with the church leaders, they've been outright confessing to their crimes, and their insurrection, and their treason, and their terrorism. And the government's not stopping them. No one dares to molest or make afraid except for me. And they've destroyed me. Sort of. I don't understand. I mean, I have no major source of money to pay for things anymore. So it's pretty much torture to have the internet still and not be evicted yet. So if whoever is doing this is not against me, they're just waiting for something. You gotta act now, guys, whoever you are. If you're gonna save me, you need to save me quick. But so this is what I keep talking about with the code in the Book of Mormon, as they refer to Revelation. The enemy has been planning this for over 200 years. Since the War of 1812, when the White House and the Capitol were burned down. As the Capitol now has the symbol of fascism right behind the pulpit. When I saw, I was horrified. They claim it's innocent, that it's from the Romans, that was one of their symbols. Well, yeah, but the Romans were the bad guys. The Greeks were the ones who established a republic. The Romans sort of overthrew the republic and restored a monarchy, emperorship. That's why Revelation, John, talks about the number of the beast. It's not Jewish gematria for 666. It's the total number value of IVXLCD. The Super Bowl, I don't know which number it will be this year. We can Google search it. I understand that the two teams have been chosen now. Super Bowl 2022 is LV1. So L is 50, V is 5, 1 is 1. I is 1. And so 56 They're using the Roman numerals of the beast, 666, the Roman Empire, right here in America, with the inverted pentagram on the GOP. I can see, I don't think there's stars on the donkey, is there? Can you imagine that? Maybe they'll just do away with all other parties and it'll just be MAGA. Democrat donkey. Oh, nope, they do have stars. Wouldn't that be interesting if they flipped those around upside down? But that's all part of the dichotomous mental brainwashing that they learned from psychologists. Psychologists are the cause of all of our problems. They've been behind our government to manipulate us through the government, and religion with religion, and our economy with the economy. They've been playing us all for chumps to purposely brainwash us to do what they plotted. Because psychologists used to claim religion was a mental illness. If you got a spiritual witness, that's a mental illness. If it was a voice in your head, well, that's schizophrenia. If it was a feeling, well, that's bipolar disorder. But now they're backing off because they're helping the church. So if you're an ex-Mormon, you're mentally ill. And people don't see it. People are embracing psychology. And do you not understand the church's dichotomous position with a certain popular ex-Mormon who was interviewed in the 3 questions on Fox 13 News, Utah? Oh yeah, I would consider going back to the church. I mean, they probably won't let me. You know, a few things might have to change. They're not going to change. It's all a game they're playing on you. I've been warning you, and instead I get cancel cultured because you've been brainwashed by him. You do not listen to what I'm telling you. You just get immediately offended. Well, yeah, I knew he was wrong because he says Joseph Smith was a good guy. A victim of Brigham. God. We are in real danger, guys. And it's not going to go away by positive mental attitudes. That's the trip. That's the trick. It's causing a trip. And so none of these prophecies are going to be fulfilled unless people wake up, literally, to the blindness that has been caused on them, to the hypnosis that has been put on people. You literally are mental zombies, and you need to come out of it. And it's not going to come out from murder, death, kill, John Spartan. But yeah, that whole society was based upon a psychologist. And so you see our kids. I don't know which generation. They keep labeling generations differently. But it was the participation trophy generation, where our kids were just pushed out of the school system for having participated. And so now the consequences of that are a horribly run economy. Businesses are are worthless. Their degrees are worthless as they're put in jobs tanking the businesses. And they can't get jobs now because their job training is worthless. Their education is worthless because it was just participation. They don't know how to win and they don't know how to lose. And so losing is not an option for them. And they don't understand why they can't get the job that they deserve to participate. And so you get deep state Dems to support them, to say, yes, separate but equal. And I keep screaming, guys, you're in danger. The enemy is upon us. And hopefully there are far more of you watching my videos, just because YouTube won't allow me to see you. But you can't remain hidden. You eventually have to come out and take a stand against the evil that is being done to us, because time's about up.